I'm so glad to be joined today by BAU, representing the architectural profession in Belgium, an organized movement there. And I'd love for the four of you to maybe give an introduction of yourself and tell us what was your aha moment that got you into organizing.
For me personally, my name is Bart van Hemeldonck. I worked in the profession for almost 6 years now. And one of the key moments for me in my journey as an architectural worker was that I applied in an office after graduating. And I got admitted in the office. And the first thing I asked on the phone to my bosses was like, okay, when do I sign the contract? Is there an agreement, a basis for which we can work together? And they replied to me immediately, like, yeah, we don't work with contracts here in the office. That's not how it's organized here. And so for me, this was kind of problematic because on the one hand, in academia or in the 5 years I studied, I didn't get to know how work in the sector was organized. So I didn't know that people didn't work with contracts and everyone was a freelancer. And the second point, everyone is a freelancer. So yeah, this is kind of like a precarious work sector where you jump into, let's say. So for me, that's the first point that I got a bit worried, let's say, or suspicious about this sector. I don't know if I should elaborate first or I should maybe let the others introduce themselves.
Um, yeah, my name is Elisabeth. I studied together with Pierre and Bart, and my aha moment was when we all finished our internship already 3 years ago, more or less. And suddenly there was an opinion piece in a big newspapers in Belgium, which stated a young architect said, yes, if you want to work as an architect in Belgium, you can, but at a starving wage. As a reaction on this, the Order of Architects, the institution in Belgium that organizes the internship and the access to the profession, said in a public note, yes, interns should negotiate better. It's also your responsibility to negotiate. This made me so angry, and I think a lot of us were very angry at this point because we didn't really have a choice with this starting wage. So then we sat together in a cafe and we decided, okay, let's do something about it.
My name is Paulien Gekiere. I was working actually in management as a freelancer, and I was doing a lot of acquisition, new clients in a fairly big firm in Belgium. So this gave me like a position between workers and bosses. And I was doing that job during the high point of the cost of living crisis in 2022. And I just got a lot of questions from workers, not only from the office I worked with, but also from other offices. What to do now? We are freelancers. In Belgium, workers get extra money when costs raise, but freelancers don't. So we were like excluded of social rights, and this really came to the surface. And at this point, there were also some international publications, like an article on the zine that said architectural workers should see themselves as workers. So this made me write an open letter that was called Dear Architects, It's Time for a System Change. And it went viral between architects. Then university asked me to go teach management. So I decided I needed to know a lot more about management, and I quit my job and became like a researcher and an Instagrammer. And then I met Bo, and now we are an organization together.
And my name is Pierre Jadoul. So I kind of have the same story as Elisabeth and Wart. A story where you're dropped into the market of architecture. You try to find a job to do an internship. You are not valued as an intern, so you have to fight for your position. There is no room for negotiation whatsoever. And then there is this letter, which Elizabeth mentioned, that states that it's our job to negotiate for a stronger position, for a better wage. It's our job to negotiate for a contract even, which is not available in any office that I knew of. So after that, yeah, a lot of indignation and frustration followed, and we got together with our friends and said something has to happen. And that's how we formed our organization between friends and colleagues. And this evolved to a more and more structured organization where we now got together with Paulien, who had more experience than us, and yeah, set milestones for ourselves and try to achieve them step by step by talking to the right people, getting our foot in the right doors, and it's paying off for now. So we hope to continue this positive trajectory.
It's great to hear that there's momentum in the right direction. Working without a contract certainly is precarious. That's not something that I'm familiar with here in my context. In addition to the contracts, are there any other problems or issues that you face in the architectural profession in Belgium?
Well, most problems that we face here are linked to that contract issue. So actually, in the past, our profession grew as a type of the image of an independent architect, like maybe one or two people, mostly one person actually, managing projects on his own and building a big name for himself, building his firm, and eventually hiring maybe interns or younger people to do the work for him or her. But this was kind of set in stone as a statute within our government. So that means that now we have the independent status for our government. Meanwhile, the profession evolved to being a lot more professionalized. Offices grew to way bigger sizes, and the work of an architect could not be done by one person anymore. Meanwhile, that the status of being independent stayed. So now in Belgium, we work as independent freelancers for bigger offices, while actually we work in circumstances where normally you would have a contract and you would just be an employee. But this is kind of a flaw in the system that stayed and that is tolerated by our government. That means that a lot of these false self-employed people have no room for negotiation for wages, so they have very low pay. They have no social security to fall back on, while in Belgium we have a very good system of social security. And once you can't practice your profession anymore, you're just out and you have to fight for yourself. This means that a lot of people in their, like, I would say the start of their 30s who are thinking about making their next steps in life, they have to quit their job. That's what we call a leaky pipeline. A lot of people have to leave the job because they can't afford to keep on working under the same circumstances. And a lot of the people who leave first are women or minorities that don't have the means to support themselves any longer. So that means our sector is growing to be very non-diverse, and it's not looking like it's becoming more diverse anytime soon, sadly. I must say, in the education, the education is becoming a lot more diverse, so we hope that these people will flow through. But I guess, yeah, those are the biggest problems that we are facing in our sector.
So thinking about those problems and how they may be translated into more systemic issues, how are you thinking about more traditional institutions in Belgium? Are there institutions in Belgium, like an institution of architects, and how are you interacting with or working against them?
Yes, I think in Belgium we have a very specific situation. Because of this false self employment Pierre just mentioned, we don't have unions. But since the beginning, we do have an official institution that is a direct link between us and politics, and that's the Order of Architects. So it's an institution inscribed by the law, and they were put in place to watch over the disciplinary, the rules, let's say, of being an architect. And they also protect or they organize the access to the profession, so the internships. The problem with this institution today is that it's not at all representative of the workforce, let's say, because it's an institution of mainly old men, while in Belgium we are the youngest architecture profession in Europe. We think the false self-employment is also a reason for that, because a lot of talent and a lot of how do you say ervaring?
Experience.
A lot of experience is flowing away because of this system. So we need to democratize this institution so it's put back in place and it can advocate for a better architecture sector, and it can better organize this access, this internship to the profession, which is now still in false self-employment. They should see over better contracts and watch over the system.
So one of the things that Pierre mentioned was that in a freelance contract, it's not tied to the state social security system. Is that the case? And how do you actually navigate that as workers?
I think having a freelance contract is something we see in other sectors too. Some of them are also creative sectors, like journalists, or also like medical sectors have this, like kinesists. I don't know how to say that in English. Physiotherapists, yes. So there are other sectors who struggle with this freelance thing. Actually, the government thinks of you when you're a freelancer as being a more independent worker who has to build its security itself. Which is very hard when you see how low the wages are in architecture. So those two things don't go together. As we already said, Belgium has a super strong social security system, very strong unions who are really involved in politics in many, many layers. And you see that if you want to do something for workers, you always like fall back on these unions and why can't you work with them? But you can't if everybody is a freelancer. So now there is a law proposal to make sure there are less false self-employed workers in architecture. But there is a whole debate going on now about how to deal with this. Yes.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a daunting task ahead, but I wonder if you could give some advice for people who may be looking to be involved in the type of organizing and advocacy work that you're involved in?
What I would say is find a tribe. So I kind of started this work in 2022 on my own. And I think if I would have stayed on my own, it would have died already long ago. So you really need people to work together. If one has a bit less energy, the other one will pump the energy right back up. I have noticed that when we work together, we go a bit slower, but we are much stronger and we can leap further. I also think you have to dare to look for funding, which can be a bit, can feel a bit strange to do this and to ask people for money to do this. But it takes so much energy that I think if you keep doing it without funding, you will also run out of energy at some point. To not run out of energy, it is important to celebrate your wins, I think. You have a lot of small wins, you have to see them. So celebrate your milestones together, but you also have to keep the long-term perspective in mind. We are asking for a system change, so that will not happen in 1 or 2 years. I have a son who was 3 when I started this, and I always say I want to have it fixed by the time he goes to university. Not that he has to study architecture, but you never know. So he is 6 now. So we have 12 years to go. And I think if we look at it that way, then we have already done a lot of work in the last 3 years, and I think we will manage within the next 12. And it is great to do this with people who have a sense of humor or something to keep it fun. Put some memes on your Instagram. Dare to be brutal sometimes. It makes it fun, I think. And also, don't get intimidated because people do try to intimidate you and make you feel like you don't know what you're talking about. But I think we do know what we're talking about. And I also think in the end, it would be better for architecture as a whole if we would be able to make this system change.
Well, I have one last question, which is, your 6-year-old, by the time he reaches 18, you will have enacted some kind of vision for the future of architecture. So I'd like to hear from each of you, what is your vision for the future of architecture? We'll start with you, Elizabeth.
I think the main thing is a big shift from individualism to more collective practice, and that in very different ways. So in Belgium, we need to see architecture really as a thing that you perform as a team. Allez, not everybody does, but it goes together with this employee problem we have. And then also we should search for connections between offices, between workers, and start organizing as a profession.
Bart?
I would advocate for like honesty and solidarity. I would think, because we didn't mention it a lot now, but I think a lot of offices that are participating in biennials like the Venice Biennale or other exhibitions, they have these kind of ambitions on solidarity, on social housing, all these kind of social goals, let's say. But then how work is organized, it's all very precarious. And I think if there is more transparency and honesty about it, that would also make a better future for the sector, I would say. So that's my main point to add here.
I love that. Pierre?
I think one of the most important things globally is that our profession should be valued correctly. I think part of that lies with us. We should value ourselves correctly and be sure of what we're worth. To not let ourselves be put to the side and be told you're inexperienced and you're not worth the wage you're asking for. And also the work we create as a whole, as an office, be proud of what we do and don't be afraid to ask for a fair wage. And that also, I think, ties to what Wart just said. Be like the solidarity between offices. Don't try to undermine other offices by being the cheapest, but be sure of what your worth is. And I think once we do that, the outside world will also better understand that our work is worth more than they think.
And what I think also ties to what Pierre said, I think we should look at ourselves within the whole building sector, and we really have our value there. There is a lot of profits in the whole building sector. We should get our share of this. I hope we will be able to do that. In Belgium, we have a lot of high quality architecture, very creative, artistic architecture. So I really hope we can make this shift together without losing this quality. And the last thing I hope for is a more diverse workforce that gives chances to everybody, which I think we can see now that girls, my story would be better if I had a daughter, but he's a son. But now we see that girls can start the education, but not many girls can become leaders of architecture firms in their career. And I think if that would be the case, not only girls but other minorities could make really a career in our sector, it would help the working conditions for everybody, and it would just be more fun and more just.
Well, for the audience, they won't be able to see all the smiles around the screens on the close of this conversation, but I really do appreciate the time that you spent with us, and look forward to seeing some radical progress.
We hope to.
Yeah, we hope so.
Yeah.
Would
Yeah,
be
and
nice
thanks
if
for
we-
giving us a platform. It's nice to be invited.
Yeah,
It would be nice if we could all meet in Venice.
yes.
So if anyone finds funding to do that, we'll be happy to join.
Should start a crowdfunding. Get us in Venice.